Marcus stepped out of his black pickup truck and took a long look at the dealership lot stretching out before him. Gleaming sedans, polished SUVs, and a row of luxury models glimmered under the noon sun. He could smell the wax and gasoline mixed with the faint scent of asphalt still warm from the morning heat. A part of him wanted to smile. This was his dealership now. Papers had been signed just 3 hours ago. The ink was still drying on the contract that officially made him the new owner of Harrison Motors. But instead of showing up in a suit and shaking hands for the obligatory introductions, Marcus had decided to come unannounced, as himself. He wore an old pair of jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie that had a faded logo from his first auto shop, the one he'd built with his own hands 15 years ago. His plan was simple. Walk in as an ordinary customer and see how his employees, the ones he'd soon lead, actually treated people who didn't look like money. He wasn't testing them out of spite. He'd just learned the hard way that respect shown only to power wasn't real respect at all. As he entered the main showroom, cool air conditioning hit his skin, and the floor gleamed so bright he could see his reflection in it. A receptionist behind the counter didn't even glance up from her phone. No. Welcome to Harrison Motors. No smile, just the faint sound of chewing gum and scrolling. Marcus nodded to himself and moved toward the display of new electric models, running a hand lightly over the hood of a sleek silver car. That was when the salesman appeared, tall, well-dressed, with a practiced grin that didn't reach his eyes. His name tag read, Travis. He approached with a kind of lazy confidence, the kind that came from years of judging customers on site. Hey there, my man, Travis said, clapping his hands together softly. You lookin' for something affordable today? Marcus turned toward him, studying his face. Just browsing, he replied evenly. Travis gave a nod, the kind of nod that pretends to be polite but oozes condescension. Sure thing. Well, our budget section's on the far side of the lot. These new models here are pretty high-end, not really for first-timers, you know. He gave a small chuckle, as if expecting Marcus to laugh with him. Marcus didn't. He tilted his head, eyes calm. I see. And how do you know I'm a first-timer? The salesman shrugged. Call it experience. Most of my regulars don't. Come in dressed casual. You know what I mean. He said it like a joke, but the undertone was unmistakable, and ugly. Marcus smiled faintly. I see. So you judge people by their clothes. Travis lifted his palms defensively, his grin tightening. No, not judging, man. Just saying. Cars like these, he gestured toward a row of luxury sedans, are for a certain kind of buyer. Someone who knows what he's doing. Financing, maintenance, warranty, it's not for everyone. But hey, we got some great deals on used ones, if that's more your lane. The silence that followed was long enough for the hum of the air conditioner to fill it. Marcus just looked at him, thoughtful. He had spent years under cars, learning every system, every wire, building his business from a two-bay garage in Atlanta into a multi-million-dollar automotive company. He could have bought every car in this room twice over, but this salesman saw only a black man in worn sneakers. Tell me something, Marcus said, breaking the silence. What's your best performing model this month? The salesman blinked, caught off guard. Depends what you mean by performing. Sales, Marcus clarified. Revenue per unit. Travis hesitated. You mean, like, the expensive ones. The Vantage LX sells good. But look, man, it's 80 grand base price. Not exactly an easy sell. Marcus nodded slowly. You should know your numbers better than that. When I ran a shop, I could tell you down to the part what was moving fastest. Travis laughed awkwardly. Ran a shop, huh? That's cool. Maybe one day you'll upgrade from fixing cars to buying one of these bad boys. Marcus smiled again, the kind of calm, unreadable smile that carried weight beneath it. Maybe, he said softly. Maybe sooner than you think. He took another look around the showroom. The receptionist was still scrolling her phone. A mechanic passed by with a clipboard, glancing curiously at Marcus, perhaps sensing something the salesman didn't. Appreciate the chat, Marcus said, turning toward the door. Travis nodded, already looking past him to a well-dressed couple stepping inside. No problem, man, have a good one. As Marcus walked out into the sunlight, he could feel a mix of disappointment and resolve settling in his chest. He'd hoped, maybe, to see something better, to feel proud walking into his new business. Instead, he'd seen what needed to change first. He looked back through the glass doors, watching Travis greet the new customers with charm and energy. The difference was night and day. Marcus took out his phone, snapped a quiet photo of the dealership sign, and texted his assistant, "Team meeting tomorrow morning." No suits, no titles, just truth. Then he started the truck, a slow smile forming on his face. The real work was about to begin. Marcus returned to the showroom the next day, wearing the same clothes as before, the same hoodie, the same sneakers, and the same calm expression. He wanted to see whether yesterday's encounter was a fluke or a pattern. He moved through the dealership slowly, pretending to browse again. The smell of fresh polish and the faint buzz of chatter filled the air. Behind him, he could hear Travis's voice carrying through the room, smooth, confident, dripping with practiced charm. The salesman was closing a deal with a young couple, his tone polite and animated. But when his eyes flicked toward Marcus, that enthusiasm dimmed, replaced by something colder, lazier. Travis ended his conversation with a handshake and strolled over. "Hey, man, you're back," he said, forcing a smile. "Didn't expect to see you again so soon. You get a chance to check out the used inventory?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet. I wanted to take another look at the electric line." Travis raised his eyebrows, feigning surprise. "Really? Those are top of the line. New tech, long range, luxury pricing. They're not cheap to maintain either." His tone made it sound less like a warning and more like a dismissal. "But, hey, maybe you're just curious, right? No harm in looking." Marcus approached a gleaming black electric SUV, its chrome accents reflecting the light like a mirror. He circled it slowly, opening the door, scanning the dashboard. "This one's impressive," he said quietly. "What's the torque output?" Travis hesitated. "It's strong. You know, real quick off the line. But honestly, man, it's not the kind of thing people buy unless they got serious money. You'd probably be better off with something simpler." Marcus straightened, meeting his eyes. "You don't think I could afford this one?" The salesman gave a nervous laugh. "Hey, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, these cars come with big payments. It's easy to get in over your head, especially without a strong credit profile. I've seen guys get burned." "Guys like me?" Marcus asked quietly. Travis hesitated, realizing too late how it sounded. No, I didn't mean it like that. Look, I'm just trying to help you out. I can show you a few pre-owned models that are still reliable, and, you know, more practical." Marcus didn't respond right away. He just looked around the showroom, the polished floors, the glass walls, the quiet hum of money in motion. He noticed how other customers were being greeted, handshakes, smiles, offers of coffee. Meanwhile, he stood there being talked down to, as if he didn't belong. He turned back to Travis and asked calmly, "How long have you worked here?" 4 years, Travis replied, folding his arms. "Top seller 2 years running." "Why, that's impressive," Marcus said. "Do you like it here?" Travis shrugged. "Pays the bills. I'm good at reading people, you know. Telling who's serious and who's just wasting time. That's how you stay on top in this business." Marcus nodded slowly. "Reading people," he repeated. "And what did you read when you saw me?" The salesman hesitated again. His eyes darted briefly toward the office glass, where the general manager was sitting, deep in conversation with another employee. "Look," Travis said finally, lowering his voice. "I didn't mean any disrespect. It's just, I've been doing this long enough to know who's really here to buy. You don't dress like a buyer, man. That's all." Marcus smiled faintly, though there was no humor in it. "Maybe you should look past the clothes next time. You might be surprised who's standing in front of you." Travis gave an uncomfortable chuckle, clearly ready to move on. Sure. Tell you what, if you ever get serious about buying, come find me. I'll cut you a deal. Friends and family discount, all right." He clapped Marcus lightly on the shoulder before walking away, his attention already fixed on another customer, a man in a suit stepping out of a luxury sedan. Marcus stood still for a moment, letting the weight of it sink in. Around him, employees buzzed about, closing deals, making calls, laughing. It was business as usual, except for the quiet sting in his chest that came from seeing exactly what he'd suspected. Respect here wasn't given freely, it was rationed out based on appearances. As he wandered deeper into the showroom, he overheard bits of conversation. A junior salesperson whispering about quotas, another complaining about tire kickers, who never buy anything. The culture was clear: hustle, sell, and don't waste time on people who didn't look rich. Marcus realized that mindset wasn't just Travis's problem, it was the dealership's DNA. He paused by a glass door leading to the staff area and looked in. Mechanics worked efficiently in the garage, heads down, covered in grease and sweat. They reminded him of where he'd started, people who worked hard for every dollar, who didn't care how someone dressed as long as they were honest. He respected that, but out here, in the polished front of the building, image had replaced integrity. As Marcus turned to leave, he caught sight of his reflection in one of the showroom windows. Hoodie, jeans, the faint smudge of engine oil still on his sleeve from working on his own truck that morning. The kind of man they underestimated. The kind of man who built businesses while others were busy judging. He took one last look at the rows of shiny cars and the man who'd ridden him off without a second thought. Then he smiled. Not out of anger, but purpose. Tomorrow, the dealership would see him again. But next time, he wouldn't be the man they thought they could ignore. The morning sun glared off the dealership's tall glass windows, bouncing light across the pristine lot. Employees stood near the entrance in a loose line, whispering and fidgeting. Word had spread like wildfire that the new owner was visiting for a formal introduction. The staff had spent the last hour straightening ties, polishing cars, and practicing smiles. Travis adjusted his blazer for the third time, his reflection staring nervously back at him from the showroom window. He had no idea what to expect. He'd heard the name, Marcus Hale, but knew nothing else. The glass doors slid open with a soft hiss, and the low murmur of conversation died instantly. A man in a sharp gray suit walked in with two others in tailored attire, carrying folders and tablets. But it was the man in the center who drew everyone's eyes. Confident, calm, and familiar. Marcus stepped forward, the same easy stride as before, but now every detail about him commanded respect. The subtle gleam of his watch, the quiet authority in his posture, and most of all, the steady look in his eyes. Travis froze. For a split second, his brain refused to believe it was the same man he'd brushed off not once, but twice. But there was no mistaking him. The same face, the same calm expression, only now framed by power and presence. His throat went dry as realization crashed over him. The general manager, a stout man named Reynolds, stepped forward with a wide smile. "Everyone, I'd like to officially introduce our new owner, Mr. Marcus Hale." A collective murmur swept through the group. Marcus offered a polite nod. "Thank you," he said evenly. "I'm looking forward to working with all of you." His gaze flicked across the faces before him, pausing, just for a moment, on Travis. The salesman's stomach dropped. Reynolds gestured toward the showroom. "Would you like the tour, sir?" "I've already had one," Marcus replied with quiet amusement. "Yesterday, actually." His voice was calm, but the hint of irony cut deep. A few employees exchanged puzzled looks. Travis felt sweat bead at his temple. Marcus began walking through the showroom, speaking as he went. "This dealership is known for its history, its loyal customers, and its reputation for professionalism. I intend to keep that reputation, and improve it." He stopped beside one of the luxury electric cars, the same one Travis had dismissed him from just a day before. "But to do that, we're going to change how we see people. How we treat them. Every person who walks through that door deserves respect, no matter what they're wearing, no matter what we think they can afford." The silence that followed was heavy, uncomfortable. Marcus turned his head slightly, meeting Travis's eyes directly this time. "I had an experience here yesterday," he continued. "Someone made assumptions about me based on how I looked. About what I could afford. About who I was. That's not how we're going to do business anymore." Travis felt the weight of every eye in the room. He wanted to disappear. His mind scrambled for excuses, explanations, anything that could make this moment less brutal. But Marcus's expression wasn't cruel. It was steady, controlled, even merciful. Reynolds looked uneasy. "Mr. Hale, if someone treated you poorly, Marcus raised a hand, stopping him. No need to single anyone out. The issue isn't one person, it's the culture that allows that kind of thinking. That ends today. He looked around the room. From now on, we start fresh. Every employee here will go through training, not just in sales, but in service, empathy, and professionalism. You're not just selling cars. You're representing a standard. A few heads nodded cautiously. Others shifted uncomfortably. Travis could feel his face burning, his pride dissolving beneath the quiet authority in Marcus's tone. Marcus paused, then smiled faintly. And to the person who assumed I couldn't afford a car yesterday, don't worry. You'll have the chance to learn. Mistakes can be fixed. Attitudes can change. But only if we're willing to see people differently. The words landed harder than any public reprimand. They weren't angry. They were purposeful. Travis felt something twist inside him, a sharp sting of guilt mixed with reluctant respect. He hadn't been spoken to like that before. Not with malice, but with truth. Marcus walked over to the reception counter, where the young woman who'd ignored him yesterday now stood rigid and pale. He gave her a polite nod. Good morning. Nice to finally meet you properly. She managed a shaky smile. As Marcus finished his walkthrough, his assistant handed him a clipboard. He signed a few forms, exchanged a quiet word with Reynolds, and turned back to the staff. We'll meet tomorrow morning, he said. No suits, no titles, just an honest conversation about who we want to be as a company. He paused, glancing again at Travis. That includes everyone. With that, he offered a firm handshake to the general manager and headed toward the door. The staff remained silent as he left, the echo of his shoes fading across the polished floor. Travis stood rooted in place, staring after him. His chest was tight, his thoughts tangled. He'd made a fool of himself. Yes, but more than that, he'd been exposed. The very thing he prided himself on, his ability to read people, had failed him completely. As Marcus's car pulled out of the lot, Travis exhaled shakily. He knew this wasn't the end of his job. It was the beginning of a reckoning. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't in a long while, humility. And as he looked around the dealership, he realized Marcus wasn't just the new owner. He was the reset button they all desperately needed.